Hello. I want to apologize for the microphone issue in the previous video. I hope you'll not blame me too much, and I think everything will be fine. But if you feel a really big aggression or you are really angry, just press this dislike button for the previous video, and hopefully it will better. Um, okay, so today I'm gonna talk about, in this video, I'm gonna talk about Whitespaces because I'm writing those videos in one day, and mostly. Okay, so Whitespaces are something that is ignored by compiler, but it's a very important thing because even Zen programmers says that we are not writing actual instructions, we're programming white spaces, and we're putting our instructions between white spaces while we're programming. So, um, so it's very important stuff. And though, as I said, compiler will effectively ignore those always white spaces, we should use them. So, well, what can be white space? White space can be a new line. So, if we have two programs with identical content, but it has an extra line here, they are effectively the same program. They will do absolutely the same stuff. Moreover, we can just remove this tab here, and it will run again. It will show the same result. It will be working as expected. Okay, so why we use then white spaces if it doesn't matter to compiler? Because it does matter for the people, right? So people are not compilers, yeah, and they need to understand what is going on in some source code. So to understand what is going on, we should have some proper indentation. So for example, tab white space is used for indentation of a main element and sub element. For example, when we see that all code which is inside of main block are indented by one tab, we're understanding that all those instruction belongs to main function, and when it's called, everything will be executed here. The same when we look at while loop, we can see that everything inside of those squiggly brackets will be executed, and they are belong to this while loop logically. So and that's about white spaces. What can be white space? It's basically space, right? Tabulation in new line. Okay, so what else can be? I can say that in C++, again, it doesn't enforce you to use white spaces, but some languages are really fury about that, like Python. It's really requires you to write code with proper white spaces. Yeah. So if you have some white space, missed some white space, or it doesn't appear when it should appear, then your program will just not run. Okay, it will not. It will. It's having an error. Okay, so you have to fix just those spaces. So white space, as you see here, for example, in line 4, you see that we have two white spaces, and that does mean that this instruction belongs to while, and the whole while loop belongs to main. So we can actually have any levels of inclusion. I mean, we can include here another while loop if we need to perform something, or we can have here if statement. I will tell you about if later, and everything here will be will work on will belong to this outer statement. Okay. Okay, so okay, I want to tell you about print function. Um, actually, I want to tell you that you can actually Google for printf specificators like this, or overall how it works in more detail. If someone will attach link in comments, I will be grateful, and I will pin his comment, the first one who will attach link to the printf, any resource which is decent, quite decent resource, and describes printf quite clearly. Okay, so printf is, as I said, it can have a lot of arguments here. It's a variable length argument function, quite not that often used type of function. Usually function has fixed number of arguments, but you can do the when you don't know exactly how many arguments you need to use, you may go with variable size argument. So okay, so one thing I forgot to mention is about semicolon. It's a simple small element of the program. It's a simple symbol, yeah, and but it plays quite important role when we want to distinguish the first one instruction from another. We want to say that this instruction starts here. Okay, this instruction starts here and it ends here. Okay, but because of whitespace, we assume that instruction starts here. Okay, from this point, and this kind of instruction is just a variable declaration and initialization of this variable. Okay, so after each meaningful um, expression or anything that does some part of the job, we put a semicolon here. Okay, semicolon must be omitted when we have block type of operators. For example, in while block, if we write here a semicolon, it's probably a mistake, because it will run actually, but it will do absolutely unexpected thing. Okay, currently what happened, that when we it's an infinite loop, yeah, so when we write here while loop, actually we are checking that foot is less than upper, and it's certainly less than upper, because 1 is less or equal than 30, and it does this instruction. Particularly semicolon on its own line, it's an empty instruction. It just does nothing. Okay, so we're saying until the foot is less than upper, do nothing, and it really do nothing. Yeah. And what happens here, because we didn't modify uh, foot value, so this expression is always true, so we are getting stuck here. Actually, that's an example of infinite loop. So this might be an error probably. However, there are some here we have some style of programming when you write while condition here and write. It might be an error, but it's up to you. Usually how while is used, that you make a condition writing this expression, and you can write here um, semicolon, but it doesn't really matter here, because we have closing brackets for while, and this will be interpreted as an empty instruction, so it's okay to have it or not having it here. However, we have inside of this while function, while operator, we have semicolons after each statement. So this is called statement. Statements are very different. It can be function, it can be evaluation, expression, or assignment. Okay, it can be declaration, just declaration, declaration with initialization. So we have everything in C, some major blocks of code, not just particular symbols, right? Major and meaningful blocks of code are considered to be as statement. It's like in our natural language when we say when we write sentences, then we finish it with a dot. Okay, so the same thing comes when we talk about C programming language. So instead of dot, we have there a semicolon. Okay, I wanted to tell you about data types a little bit because in this program we used almost important ones, but not all data types. For example, we also have a character variable, character data types, and it can store particular symbol like a. Okay, actually it can store any type of symbol. It can store plus sign as well, not only numbers, digits, numbers, sorry, letters, and so on. Actually, any symbol can be saved here. Also, I would like to mention ASCII table. If you're not familiar with ASCII table, you definitely should look at it. So just Google it, or anyone who pin message will comment out link with ASCII, with some ASCII table, link to some ASCII table. I will pin it as well, but you can Google on it on your own. Okay, so ASCII is basically table which collects symbols and their encodings in computer. Okay, it's very old standard, but it's used still. Nowadays we use UTF standard, which can store far more symbols than ASCII. Original ASCII has 7 bits or 8 bits. It's about 128 symbols and 256 symbols. But obviously, those number of symbols are not enough. So many languages has its own authentic symbols, alphabet, hieroglyphs, and some kind of symbols which it and in general it's much more than 200 stuff. It's 200 elements. So nowadays it's used like UTF, but also character is often used as a byte interpretation. So we don't have different distinct type in C like byte. It's we use character, or rather unsigned character, because it what's the difference between unsigned character and character? That unsigned character values goes from 0 to 205. Okay, I'll write here some value, and I will write here in comments just mentioning how many what is the range for this type, data type, and here I will write it as well. So okay, minus 128. 128 to 127. Okay, so this is a range of our symbol. So you can ask how they relate actually this symbol and number. I'm saying that it stores number. Actually, it stores symbols which are mapped to some numbers, and that's what all about ASCII table. So that's why I'm telling you to look at ASCII table, because there you can find a mapping between numbers and symbols. But you can use numbers and symbol interchangeably. For example, I can surely say that a big A character has a number of 65. So if I write if I create two variables with symbol big A and just writing here 65, they will be equal, because this is just a number in interpretation of this symbol. Okay, so also we have another type, data type. It is double. And before we go to double, I want to tell you about a float. As you might expect, float is just a number with floating point, but it's much more wider than integers. Integers can take up to 2 billion numbers. So the maximum is approximately 2 billion numbers. We have unsigned integer, just like unsigned character, right? Here is a semicolon, should be. So when we use unsigned integer, it can go up approximately to 4 billion. Yeah, so the maximum number you can store it's something approximately to 4 billion. Okay, I'm not going to write the exact number. You don't need it right now. Okay, so and I'm telling that it's just an approximate number. So float can store far more numbers with 38 zeros. Okay, 38 zeros, and also it can store with plus and minus sign. Okay, so it can be negative numbers and positive numbers, and it can store up to 6 digits after floating point. So this is kind of this. And double is can store up to plus minus 308 zeros. Imagine this number. So it's a really huge number, and up to 15 digits after floating point. Okay, so so double is kind of it takes roughly 8 bytes in most architectures, in most systems, and float takes 4 bytes. Okay, so integer takes 4 bytes for most architecture. Character and unsigned character, they both take exactly 1 byte. Okay, so that's probably all about data types for now, and I think that this is it. Yeah, because this is just a clarification video, so it will not be that long. So hope you see you next time. Goodbye.